Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Maya Hernandez. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the alleged crime, then offer my analysis. Maya Hernandez was born on May 5, 2005, and lived in Visalia, California. This town is 43 miles southeast of Fresno. By 2025, Maya worked as a certified nursing assistant and was raising two sons, 2-year-old Mateo and 1-year-old Emilio. The father of her sons was spending some time in jail. Now moving to the timeline of the alleged crime. On June 29, 2025, Maya loaded her two sons into her 2022 Toyota Corolla Hybrid. She drove 79 miles south to the Be Beautiful Spa at 31 South Real Road in Bakersfield. She arrived at 1:10 p.m. Her appointment at that spa was at 1:30 p.m. to get lip filler, but the spa was running behind that day. At 1:35 p.m., Maya exited her Corolla and walked into the spa to check on the status of her appointment. She then returned to her vehicle. At 2:02 p.m., Maya left the vehicle again. Her sons were still in their car seats in the Corolla. Maya left the vehicle running and placed her keys under the driver's seat. Her two sons had milk, crackers, and candy. She also left her cell phone propped up so Mateo could watch television. The air conditioning in the vehicle was set to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and the fan was set at level 4 out of 7. The outside temperature was 101 degrees. Maya walked 127 feet from her vehicle to the entrance of the spa, entering the building at 2:04 p.m. At 2:06 p.m., she sat down in the waiting area with her back to the window. The lip filler procedure was only supposed to take about 20 minutes, but due to a delay, Maya remained in the spa for about 2.5 hours. During that time, she spoke with other patrons and interacted with her Apple Watch. She mentioned that she had two sons, but never indicated they were in her vehicle outside. After an hour, the engine in Maya's Toyota Corolla shut off. The vehicle was programmed to do this. The 1-hour clock would reset if the transmission was taken out of park or the brake pedal was pressed, but neither of those events had occurred. At 4:33 p.m., Maya returned to her vehicle to get her cell phone because she needed to pay the spa for her procedure. She noticed that Mateo's cheeks were red, and she believed that Emilio was having a seizure. Maya called 911. Emergency responders arrived at 4:45 p.m. and found Emilio unconscious and not breathing. His brother Mateo was lethargic and had soaking wet hair. They were both transported to a hospital. Emilio's temperature was 107.2 degrees. He was pronounced dead at 5:48 p.m. His cause of death was hyperthermia. Mateo had a temperature of 99 degrees. He survived and was placed in protective custody. The reason that Mateo lived and Emilio died, even though they were exposed to the exact same environment, is because at 2 years old, Mateo had a better developed ability to regulate his temperature. His sweat glands were more active and better regulated, allowing him to sweat more effectively. Maya Hernandez was arrested and charged with 4 offenses, including second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter. Her trial started on December 8, 2025. At the time I am making this video, the trial is underway. Now moving to my analysis. Maya Hernandez maintains her innocence, sort of. During opening statements, her defense attorney said that Maya did not commit second-degree murder, but he conceded that she was guilty of the remaining charges, including involuntary manslaughter. The state, of course, disagrees about the second-degree murder charge. They argue the evidence supports that Maya acted with implied malice aforethought. That is, she had a clear awareness of a high risk of death, but proceeded anyway. Maya had a conscious disregard for life. This brings me to the question, is Maya Hernandez guilty of second-degree murder? Let's take a look at the evidence, both for and against the idea that she is guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Prior to arriving at the spa in Bakersfield, Maya sent a message to a staff member asking if she could bring her two sons into the business while she was getting her procedure. The staff member replied, "Sure, if you don't mind them waiting in the waiting area." Despite having permission to take them inside, and it being 101 degrees outside, Maya left her two sons in her vehicle unattended. This is risky even on a cool day because someone could have kidnapped the children. Presumably, Maya's Toyota Corolla was equipped with the smart key system, which is why she left the key under the seat. This meant that the doors of the vehicle were unlocked when she was in the spa. Maya's actions were intentional. It's not like she forgot her children in the vehicle. She would later tell the police that she knew her actions were irresponsible and considered this fact as she was getting out of the Corolla. Now, it's possible that Maya felt uncomfortable taking her children into the waiting area, believing that she would be the only one in there with kids. However, other children were present in the waiting area, and one customer had a dog. While she was waiting for her procedure, Maya mentioned that she had children, but never said anything about them being in her vehicle. She selected a seat facing away from the window and did not look out of the window even one time. Also, she never walked outside to check on her sons. There is no question that Emilio died due to Maya's behavior. The police conducted a recreation of the fatal incident on July 2, 2025, 3 days after Emilio's death. The outside temperature was almost identical. The officers parked the vehicle in the same spot where Maya had parked, and they conducted the test during the same time range. A thermometer was placed inside the vehicle to capture the temperature throughout the recreation, and a body camera was left in there to capture the thermometer. As expected, the vehicle's engine automatically deactivated just after 3 p.m., after 1 hour of idling. At that time, it was 81.8 degrees Fahrenheit inside the vehicle. At 3:34 p.m., it was 105 degrees. At 3:52 p.m., 110 degrees. And at 4:33 p.m., the time that Maya finally arrived at her Corolla, it was a staggering 116 degrees. It was so hot, the body camera failed in the vehicle. Moving to the exculpatory factors, Maya did not believe that her children were going to die. She left her vehicle running and the air conditioning on. If the engine had not deactivated, her children would have survived. Many people are not aware that some vehicles automatically turn off after idling for a certain period of time. That's pretty much it for the exculpatory factors. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I believe that Maya Hernandez is guilty of second-degree murder? Yes, in my opinion, she is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. She disregarded a known risk of death. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Maya was self-centered, immature, impulsive, irresponsible, reckless, highly focused on her appearance, and had a sense of entitlement. Getting lip filler was a high priority for her, far above the safety of her children. She could have done without the procedure, scheduled it for a time when she had childcare, or simply taken her children in the spa with her. Maya rejected these three options and instead decided to gamble with the lives of her sons. It's not clear how this strategy benefited Maya. Maybe she left her children in the car simply because it was easier. She did not want the hassle of taking them inside. Once she realized there were other children in the waiting area, Maya could have changed her mind. She could have walked out to her vehicle, retrieved her two sons, and brought them into the business. The problem is that Maya knew that leaving her two children in the vehicle was wrong. She may have been afraid that other patrons would condemn her behavior. There was no intent to kill in this case. Maya did not know the Corolla's engine would deactivate after an hour. She probably never heard of that feature on any vehicle. She didn't even know this was something that would happen under any circumstances. When the police interviewed Maya, she said, quote, "It's not like I just left them in there to blanking die," unquote. Her lack of intent means there was no express malice, but that is not required for second-degree murder. The charge only requires implied malice aforethought, which is consistent with Maya's behavior. I don't know if the jury will convict Maya of second-degree murder or not, but if I had to guess, I think they will. The difference between second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter is a challenging one for jury members. One straightforward way to think of it is like this. With second-degree murder, a person knew they could kill someone, but they did it anyway. With involuntary manslaughter, they didn't realize they could kill someone, but they should have realized it. Juries rarely get an explanation like this, and they are often told to focus on terms like implied malice aforethought and conscious disregard for life. The problem is, these terms point to concepts that are abstract and can be interpreted in many different ways. These are not terms that people that serve on a jury are going to hear in their everyday lives. In real life, when juries deliberate, they don't really focus on the terms. Rather, they differentiate second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter by looking at how many offensive behaviors the defendant engaged in. One could think of these behaviors as aggravating circumstances. Unfortunately for Maya Hernandez, a few of her actions really stand out as egregious, flippant, or downright nefarious. For example, sitting in the waiting room with her back to the window, failing to check on her sons, leaving them unattended for about 2.5 hours, and risking her sons' lives to improve her physical appearance, or at least getting a procedure she believed would improve her physical appearance. Maya's trial started with the assumption that she will be convicted of involuntary manslaughter at the least. Whenever a case starts with an admission that the defendant is guilty of a felony, that is not a hopeful sign for them. The jury is not going to need a lot of convincing to move to second-degree murder, and Maya has supplied many factors to provoke their anger. Now moving to my final thoughts. One aspect of impulsivity that comes up in many cases I cover is a person believing they can just do whatever they want and everything will work out fine. This is referred to as unrealistic optimism and is associated with low conscientiousness. People with this characteristic tend to overestimate their ability to manage problems while underestimating the likelihood of negative outcomes. They have a dismissive attitude and very poor planning skills. There are other similar concepts that overlap with unrealistic optimism, which each describe a slightly different angle. For example, the illusion of invulnerability. This is when someone views themselves as exempt from danger or consequences. Magical thinking. This is when a person believes a good outcome will occur simply because they wanted it to, like they can will their dreams into existence. And a sense of entitlement, which occurs when an individual believes there will be a positive outcome because they deserve for that to happen. When a person affected by one of these conditions ends up killing someone, they may get convicted of something less serious than murder. However, to the victim, the consequences are just as severe. Those are my thoughts on the case of Maya Hernandez. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.